The best film of 2024 is here, and it is called Madam Web. Usually I feel bad just like tearing something that a bunch of creative people had to work on to shreds that surely a bunch of execs ruined for everybody, right? In this case, you know what? Everyone here got paid well, okay? The film, they made it, and it's delightful. Let's start with dialogue and conversations and the really weird ADR that the villain has the whole way through, where almost never his mouth just doesn't match what he's saying. They shipped this movie knowing that his lips don't move in sync with the words he is saying half the time. It sounds like he's been dubbed with an entirely different person's voice half the time. It's wild. Why didn't you just reshoot it? I don't know. Glad you didn't know, because it was fucking hilarious. So this movie opens with the woman in the woods that you may have seen memed all over the internet. And then we cut to the introduction of our character, Madam Web herself. Alex? I don't even remember what her name is. And for reference that I'm sure is very obvious based on the thing I just said, I've never read any Madam Web comics. Same thing applies to Dakota Johnson, apparently. So it starts with this like paramedic chase. Madam Web drives a paramedic van professionally. And her and her friend Ben are just like having cute banter while driving this car through the streets of New York, while presumably somebody is dying in the back of the car. It's a weird beginning. Like they have no regard for the person who's dying in the back of the car. They're just kind of flirting with each other. And then they get to the hospital and a kid walks up to Madam Web and gives her a drawing and is like, oh my God, you saved my family. Thank you. And she gets this drawing and she's like, what am I supposed to do with that? Why did he give it to me? Like, she's not like touched. She never says thank you. Like, it's so fucking weird. Oh, I guess I'll throw it out. And she folds it up and it's like, oh, it's so thick. Like, it's so weird. And then there's like this conversation that's basically the room. This may well be the room too. It's a room-like, if you will. There's this conversation that Ben and Madam Web have where they're like talking about something in like a cafeteria. And then he goes, I've been seeing someone. And she's like, oh, it's serious. He's like, yeah. But that was totally unrelated to the conversation they were having beforehand and unrelated to the conversation that they have after that. I don't even know why it was in there. It's so weird and so out of place. And then there's like, they go to like a barbecue where Ben's sister, who, by the way, he's definitely Uncle Ben. The legalities of this movie are really funny. Ben's sister is pregnant with a baby who is almost definitely Peter Parker, but they never reference the name. They don't call him Uncle Ben. They never say Peter. There's this scene where they're at the baby shower and they're going around in a circle telling people to guess the baby name, which like, what a weird game. Because like, it's just a bunch of women guessing the name of the pregnant lady's baby. And she goes, nope, next. Nope, next. Because if they were right, I would think she would say no anyway. And then they get to Madam Web and she's like, what? But like, it's clearly there because we as an audience know that the baby's name is Peter. And we're supposed to be there like drooling, like, say the name Peter, say it. I want to feel like I did at the end of The Dark Knight Rises, where he said his name was Robin and it was really fucking weird. It just feels like you're watching a movie that legally wasn't supposed to be made. I wrote this one thing down. There's a part, okay, where Madam Web gets her powers and she goes to the woods in Peru, which hilariously, the woods in Peru look the same as the woods in New York. They clearly just used the one woods. And she talks to a guy who, her mom got bitten by a spider while she's pregnant, and that's how she became Madam Web. Okay, I'm sorry, spoilers. Quote from the movie is, when you take on the responsibility, great power will come. That's the thing this man in a really cheap looking cave in Peru says to Madam Web. Because they couldn't use the actual saying legally. It's so fucking weird. So post weird baby shower, there's every part of this sounds like I'm making it up. That's the best part. Every part of this sounds fake. There's some sort of like explosions happening maybe at a fireworks warehouse. All the cops are like, we gotta be careful. This is a hazard. It's always been a hazard. And that's where Madam Web starts getting like weird web powers where she can sort of see the future a little, gets thrown into the bay, and then when she wakes up, like has more of her powers. Cut to, occasionally, again, this may be out of order. This movie's gobbled nonsense. There's the villain who I mentioned earlier, Captain ADR, is having dreams that 3 girls dressed in superhero suits have killed him. who are Sydney Sweeney, Celeste O'Connor, and Isabella Merced. And so he, I think, like has sex with some sort of security exec, which it's the weirdest scene. They get really artsy with the camera angles, not of the sex, of the conversation they have after the sex. There's one that's like on the ceiling, one where he's like on the right-hand side of the frame and it's like really off center, or like the, you know, they've gone side, like it's like they just like for that particular very boring exposition-y conversation went really like art house with the way it was shot. For some reason, like none of this film makes any sense at all. I want to see it again so bad. Okay, I had to look it up. The protagonist's name is Cassie, not Alex. That's my bad. So yeah, we get this dude who's like had sex with the weird framing, and he like puts his hand on a lady and it like starts to kill her. He's got some sort of like contact poison. And so he then like hires this other woman, I think. She just sort of shows up and gives her access to basically that big computer thing that's in the Dark Knight. She just like has access to all the cameras in the city. And it's explained so badly. He's just like, I have access to this thing that even the cops and the FBI don't have yet. You better find the faces of these 3 girls. And so then there's this woman who I think is just sitting at this computer constantly the whole rest of the film trying to find these girls' faces. So Madam Web goes on to a train. She goes onto a train. And for some reason okay, it's really hard to talk about this without constant tangents because this movie is a series of constant tangents. Did I mention, I think that after she got thrown into the ocean, by the way, that I'm pretty sure this is where this happened, that when she wakes up, she's like, I gotta get home and watch Idol. Why did somebody write that? And why did someone else agree to say it? How many people read and approved of this script? You know what I mean? God bless them all. What a treat you've given us. So she gets to this train and this guy sits next to her and is like, is this the train to this place? And she's like, I don't know. And that conversation happens several times. Like she gets on a second train and a guy looks at her and goes, is this the train to this place? And she's like, I don't know, dude. It's like the actress is so confused that question or lining of questioning is even happening in this film that like we get to be her in that moment. Literally, why was that there? Why is this random man asking her where to go on 2 trains? Like in theory, it happened at the first point because it was trying to show us that she was like kind of going back in time and he asked her twice. But on the second train, you know, okay, the tangents. So she goes to the train station and then starts to see the big bad guy, Captain ADR, who I think they call Ceiling Guy in the film for the most part. Ceiling Guy. Genuinely, that's what he's referred to as. And she sees the 3 girls who he has seen in his visions and she sees him kill them, so she like runs with these 3 girls and tries to explain what's happening and like saves them. In the process of saving them, for some reason, again, who knows? Work of art. They get to this platform where they're about to leave the train station and Ceiling Guy is right behind them, and so there's these 3 girls, 3 of them who he is like, you know, he's trying to kill them. That's his whole goal, is to kill them so they can't kill him. But for some reason, he only takes out the cops that are on that platform. Like, the 3 girls are right there. He could definitely take them out. They're just 3 teenagers who have no powers. But instead, he takes out the cops. You just see him swinging around real fast, killing cops. And so the girls just escape. Yeah, for some reason. So they leave. Madam Web steals a taxi and drives the girls into the woods and is like, stay here. I gotta go figure out what's going on. You stay here. I think she goes back to her apartment and talks to her cat, fondly dubbed Exposition Cat, because the cat is literally just there to give her a reason to speak aloud while she's alone in her own apartment. Goes through her little folder of things and then realizes that her mom was indeed with that exact guy in the Amazon researching spiders before she died, which we already know from the trailer, which of course was also excellent. She tries to go back to the kids in the woods, but the kids have gone to a diner because they were hungry. And they're dancing on top of a table in front of some boys who I guess they thought were cute, who never speak. They never, like, clearly there was a budget thing where they're like, we can't make these men have any lines of dialogue. The girls will dance on the table, which, by the way, it was Britney Spears' Toxic, which was a good choice. Madam Web has a vision of bad guy, Ceiling Guy showing up at the diner, so she's like, oh shit, I have to get there first. And for some reason, I said it again, in order to get there, like, takes the taxi, but realizes that she has to get there in line with the song. Like, she's driving to this diner and is frustrated when she realizes that the radio's not working because she can't listen to Britney Spears' Toxic. Like there is a point where she's like, shit, the radio. As though it's supposed to be a believable, like in-world mechanic that she needs to listen to Britney Spears' Toxic in order to time her getting to the diner. As though she couldn't just get to the diner without the music at all. Like she really needs that song to be playing on the radio for some reason. She gets there, she saves the girls from Ceiling Guy. She gives them to Ben and then fucks off to Peru. She goes to Peru. There's this really great like video game moment where she pulls up the picture that her mum took in the woods and it's like the exact same. Like that forest just hasn't changed at all in that amount of time. She's like 30 in this movie. And it's like exactly, they literally have the shot where she like holds this image up and then pulls it down and it's the exact same. Like they thought they did something smart there. I think she even maybe sees visions of this point of like this original spider tribe who like the costuming just really looked like a bunch of men in like spider-esque gimp suits. Like they're really... It's not great costume design here. She goes to the cave and this guy who I guess is like part of this sort of tribe of Spider-Men, which the movie naturally can never say. You can't ever say the Spider-Man word, but that's what they are. He like shows up even though no one else is there, as though he's been waiting for her the whole time, though he's wearing very normal clothes. And he pushes her into this pond, which is where she was born, which we'd seen earlier in the film. And she gets these flashbacks to shit that happened with her mother, which is maybe the best part of the movie. Oh my God. She sees this cut of her mum in this woods researching spiders with the Ceiling Guy before she died, where she's like trying to find these spiders and she's pregnant, which, oh my God, also the movie reveals her pregnancy at the start in a really fucking lame way. Like the start of the movie is like a little bit about the mother. And we know she's pregnant, but for some reason it like reveals it to camera. Like they go, oh, she rips her coat back and it's like a stomach. She was pregnant the whole time, as though that was like a fun reveal for some reason. Yeah, so it goes back to her mum in the woods trying to find these spiders, of course. And the baby like kicks and she goes, ah. And Cassie goes, why did you hate me so much? Your mother could have like pregnancy pain. It doesn't mean that she hates you. But I guess, she was an orphan. She ended up in the foster system. She thinks her mum hates her. That's a plot that they try to like really jam pack into this 5-minute segment and like barely touch on anywhere else in any impactful way at all. And then we see like her mother talking to a doctor and explaining that Cassie, they did some testing and she has some like sort of hereditary disease. And so her mum went to find the spider to save her, which also leads to another great line of dialogue where her mother is talking to this doctor because Madam Web is like in the room watching this happen because of the pool cave. She's like, but I don't have that disease. And then her mom's like, well, I've heard about these spiders. Maybe they can get rid of the disease. And Madam Web goes, you did it, Mom. I don't have that disease. So she like gets back out of the pool and is like, oh, my mom did love me. She was researching spiders in the Amazon right before she died for me. Wow, that's crazy. And the teenagers who are with Ben and his pregnant sister-in-law, Mary, who's pregnant with Peter Parker, as we established earlier, but the movie never mentions, goes into labor. And so the girls who are supposed to be in lockdown so that they don't get murdered by Ceiling Guy all get in the car to take her to the hospital together, even though that would clearly lead them to being on cameras so that Oracle Woman, who has access to every camera ever as some unexplained technology, can find them, of course. But they do go. Madam Web, Cassie, flies back to New York, rescues the girls in an ambulance, and then lures Ceiling Guy to the same fireworks factory that we saw earlier that was mentioned as being a hazard that for some reason has not been cleared out. All of the fireworks are still there. Just waltz on in there. It's not even really taped up. There's just like one line, like it, for some reason. But at this point, Cassie has like pretty good firework vision. So she's like, girls duck, and is like avoiding fireworks is there. It's kind of visually cool, I guess. And they just like are like allowing it to explode, making it explode to like hurt him while also dodging the fireworks themselves. Cassie tries to call for medical evac from a helicopter. Ceiling Guy destroys it, and then she like does some sort of magic where she splits into 3 of herself at once to save the 3 girls when each of them is like about to die, and then sets off a fireworks trap and crushes Ceiling Guy. But she, I guess, is blinded in the process because the next time that we see her, she for some reason has lost all social skills. Like the next time we see her, she's like full tropey genius who does not really know how to speak to people. She's got these big glasses on and she's like in this like high-tech wheelchair. I can't believe this is real. This is all stuff that happens in this movie. Oh my god. Okay. And then the three girls like live with her and they have like weird banter again. One of my favorite banter lines in this movie is like there's a point where Cassie, Madam Web, tries to high five one of the girls and she's like, we are not doing that. And then later in the movie, Cassie did something cool. I don't even remember what it was. I think it was maybe drove a truck well. I think she did a good job of driving the paramedic van, which is like her literal job, but she did it well a second time. And that same girl is like, yeah, that was pretty cool, but we're not doing a high five. Has whoever wrote this met children or teenagers? I don't think they are anti-high five, unless I'm being really out of touch and it's like the least cool thing you can do is high five somebody, to the extent that that has to be like a written down stance you are taking. Yeah, it tries to touch on all these girls like being orphans in this like very weird exposition dump period as well. They're not, but like I guess their parents are shit. One of them, her dad got deported, and she's actually a very good actress. The other two, like one of them's rich, and it's like it's just very loosely like put in there as a thing that they're all supposed to bond over, but she did kidnap those kids. Yeah, that's the whole film. That's everything that happens in this film. It's very strangely shot. The audio is bizarre, especially ceiling guy ADR every 2 words. There are a lot of things that don't make sense. There are a lot of really strange references. There are some jokes that are genuinely funny, like in its defense, they wrote those and those are funny, but most of them, it's just weird. I've never seen anything before that I would give a 0 out of 10 and yet still highly recommend. Madam Web is that. Genuinely, I think I might see it again.